Look at this beautiful waterfall here at Laurel Run Falls, here in Laurel Run Park, just outside Kingsport City. Beautiful waterfall. About maybe a mile hike, or just under a mile from the parking lot, from the park itself. This also connects to Bays Mountain that way, I believe. Beautiful waterfall. Never been here before. A couple years ago, my wife and I tried to hike it, and it was in the middle of summertime, and we were both way too hot and tired to make the whole hike. So I was able to take the day off. I had to run an errand, so I took the time and did the hike myself, and beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. So anyway, while I got you guys here, figured I'd talk about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Igagwi, Yeti, the wood booger, or whatever may lie in the forests of the unknown. So, I think I'm going to hike up there and have a little chitty chat. See you in a moment. Alright folks, well, let's talk about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Igagwe, whatever it may be. I'm just going to let the camera roll right there and just let you see the background. So I'm not really sure exactly what you're seeing. Let's see if I can adjust you a little bit more. I didn't bring my stand for my phone, which I probably should have. So anyway, I'll just let you look that way. So you're kind of looking up a little ravine. I apologize. But you can hear the water in the background, I hope. So, does Bigfoot exist? Well, I don't know. I've never seen him. I've never seen anything like that. However, there have been plenty of reports going back several centuries even, at least in the United States, in North America, of this creature, whatever it may be. People have seen something, that's for sure. You can't deny that. People have seen something. You know, could it be mistaken for a wild animal that we already know exists, such as a bear? Sure, that's always a possibility. But I'd like to think that people know what a bear looks like by now. Man has been wandering the woods for centuries, millennia. They've hunted bear, they've been, attacked by bear. They know what bear look like. Native American tribes know what a bear looks like. And yet they still have stories of what we would call Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, or the wood booger, or Igagwe. In the Himalayas, the abominable, or the Yeti, the abominable snowman, etc. Lloyd Pye, a known researcher, did some work years ago, before his death, where he did some seminars talking about his theory on what Bigfoot may or may not be. And I like a lot of what he had to say. I thought it was very thought-provoking. The problem with the skeptics is they themselves don't get out in the woods. Now, this is not really out in the woods. This is a trail that leads to a waterfall in a state park. There's wilderness that surrounds this, but people don't really go off into the wilderness. Those that do are the ones that often say they've seen something that they can't explain. That is not a bear. Your hunters, some park rangers, the ones that go deep into the forest, people that just walk off trail and want to explore. The problem is when you go into the forest anymore, you're on a manicured pathway, you're on a manicured trail, you're in a park, there's amenities around you, you're not really far from civilization. It's well traveled, there's a lot of people around, but those that explore deep into the woods off the beaten path, cutting a pathway for themselves, hunters, explorers, people that go cave exploring, people that just want to see what else is there that hasn't been mapped out necessarily. They're the ones that say, hey, I saw something. It was not a bear. It was not anything that's identifiable. What is it? Now, where I'm at, had I not told you that there was a trail here that led to a waterfall, this is wilderness. And look around you. Let me grab the camera. Look around you. What do you see? Put the trail aside right there, but what do you see? Nothing. You see vast wilderness. You see, even in the dead of winter, even though it's like 50 degrees right now, it feels great. But at the end of fall, coming into winter, with hardly any leaves on the trees, we still have some evergreen foliage, and it's very dense. Now, picture this in the dead of summertime. And here's another question you have to ask yourself. When and where are people seeing this thing? If this thing exists, stand by. If this thing exists, does it migrate? Are there certain climates that it is intolerant of that it has to migrate somewhere else in certain parts of the year? That's a good question. And then again, look around you. Look at what you're looking at. Is it beyond the realm of possibility that perhaps even where you're looking, right there, beyond those magnolias, or whatever those things are called, I forgot what they're called. I think they are magnolias. I could be wrong. But beyond those, that evergreen, into the denseness, could it be possible that something like this exists? Now, I've never had an experience myself that confirms the existence of these things, but I will say, in the area of Stony Creek, where they have Blue Hole Falls, I was walking those trails, and I had this and it was an area very much like this, same kind of climate, same kind of forest, middle of summer. And I had a very, very uneasy feeling. Actually, I take that back. I think this is in the fall. But I had a very uneasy feeling as I got away from the trail. I was literally hiking, along the rocks in the creek. I had a very uneasy feeling, and I turned around and went back. It was not only uneasy, but unsafe. And this is why, lately when I've gone into the woods, places like this, even if it's a known trail, I pack a gun. I have a gun on me right now. And it's not because I'm afraid of Bigfoot. I think it's just smart to be armed when you're in an area where there is wildlife and or potential dangers. We have a lot of stories coming out of the Appalachian Trail, for example, and other areas in the Smoky Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains themselves, and many of the state parks, where people go missing, where they have been abducted, where they have been harmed by other human beings. Not to mention all the missing cases that are unsolved. And this gets into the work of David Paulides in the Missing 411, which alludes to the existence of Bigfoot but does not confirm it. However, there is another possibility to that, and that is the existence of feral people in the mountains, which has been reported for well over 150 years or more. People who just live in the mountains, who don't live in society. And they live in the mountains, and they live as such that they've lost communication of speaking English, basically, or whatever native tongue that they would speak, to where they have their own language of unintelligible mumbling or grunts, or no language at all. We can see many of these people probably are maybe inbred. And these people live wild. And I think that is far more likely that that's what a lot of people are seeing in this part of the country, mistaking that for Bigfoot, because if you have a wild man who has covered themselves in animal pelts, you're not used to seeing that. Nobody dresses like that. This isn't the frontier. So you see a wild man with long hair, long beard, covered in pelts, walking through the woods. You might think it's a Bigfoot. Now again, that doesn't mean that something like a Bigfoot or a Godway or Sasquatch doesn't exist or can't exist, but that does lead to another possibility, especially when you consider the missing 411 cases. You know, some of the behavior that they attribute, and some of the way they found some of the missing people when they have them found, who are either alive or unalive. Their clothing is in such a manner that it doesn't make sense for a bipedal, ape-like creature to do. They say sometimes the clothing is turned inside out. Sometimes it is folded. Sometimes, the shoestrings are undone. Like the laces are taken out of the boots and whatnot, etc. This leads more to me thinking that we have feral people in the woods that are harassing, attacking, and possibly abducting people, especially children. And a child may not know better. A child might see a wild man with long hair and a long beard wearing pelts on his skin and might think it's a wild animal or a Bigfoot. Now, even though I don't discount the possibility of a Bigfoot or a Godway or Sasquatch existing, I lean more toward wild people, feral people living in these woods. That has been reported as much, if not more so, and in recent times than Bigfoot, and leads to more credibility. Because it is known that a lot of people during the Civil War, basically ended up here. They didn't go back to their company, they didn't go back to their homes. A lot of them ended up here for whatever reason. People during the Great Depression did the same thing. They felt it was easier living in the mountains among the wild than it would be living in town. Think about how people talk today. Well, if shit hits the fan, I'm just going to head off into the woods and live in the wild. Well, after several generations, what do you think that's going to do? Let's say if somebody brings their wife or spouse into the mountains with them, and they live out their lives, and they bear children, and those children learn to live in the mountains, and the generation later they bear children. It's going to be inbred, but let's say that happens. And then a generation from that, and a generation from that, then you get feral wild people that are unrecognizable to modern society. The show X-Files did a great episode about this. A great episode. And that's why I think it's highly likely that a lot of the missing 411 cases are the product of that. That's just my opinion. That does not discount the existence of a Bigfoot-like creature. I think that's likely as well. I think there's a possibility. Again, mankind has seen something. Now, a lot of people say, well, we don't have bones, we don't have any evidence, we don't have this, we don't have that. If you're talking about a semi-intelligent creature, bipedal species, who is very good at eluding people, is intelligent enough to elude people, would it not lend credence that it's intelligent enough to bury its dead? What if it consumes its dead? There's a lot of animal bones. Yeah, we have fossils of the animals that we know of. We have bones of the animals that we know of, sure. But not every creature that dies in the forest here is seen by the human eye. You don't go digging for it. Those bones get consumed. They get buried. They get, washed away. And if the population is lower of the Agagwe or Bigfoot or Sasquatch than it is of, say, the deer population, you're probably not going to see it. It's like the example that Lloyd Pye did bring up in one of his lectures. He said, in the 1800s, there were stories coming out of Asia of a black and white bear that ate bamboo. And people thought, it was made up nonsense until somebody killed and brought back a panda. And then people, oh, okay, well, I guess they do exist. Again, if the population is thin and scarce as it is, and they're evading human civilization, they're very good at it, and it wouldn't be hard to do in an area not even like this. And then consider this. I'm here in the Appalachian Mountains. There's a lot of caves here. Where do you think those creatures would live? Also, the feral people. Mankind seeks the easiest form of shelter. Mankind has long used cave systems and natural shelters outside of building their own when they can do it. So, you might ask yourself, well, how come I've never seen a feral person? How deep into the woods do you really go? This isn't even deep. This is a mile from a little parking lot that's off a river. And this is a well-traveled trail. But I wonder if I were to go deep into the forest that way, where there are no trails, where people don't go because it's quite frankly steep, and behind me is even steeper, and surrounding me is more mountains. We don't really go off deep in the woods as a collective, by and large. We stick to the trails, we stick to the pathways, we stick to creeks like this. This is where the trail, it runs right along this creek the entire time until you come to the waterfall. And then it continues on up. That's where mankind treads. We tread along the trails. We tread along known pathways. We'll use animal trails, and we'll widen those. We make use of those. So when it comes to the missing 411, I think it's far likely that what we're seeing is a case of harassment and abduction by feral people, especially of children. You think about it. If it's not for a cannibalistic need, could it be for a nurturing need? And presumably, sorry to put your mind at this, a breeding need. Okay, not right away, but in order to raise the child, nurture the child in the wild, to breed them later on, or have them breed with another child that you've abducted. I mean, I don't know, But I think a lot of the missing 411 cases that cannot be explained through somebody getting lost or negligence or somebody just not wanting to be found. Folks, it wouldn't be hard to disappear in these woods, even where I'm at. It would not be hard. All I got to do is go that way. Nobody goes up there. Nobody goes up, the ridge behind me. They stick to this trail. It would be very easy to disappear in these woods. Find a crevasse, find a cave, find an outcrop somewhere, find a hollowed out tree, find a down tree where you can hide under the roots, make yourself a shelter, camouflage it from the rest of the forest. It would not be hard at all to lose yourself if you wanted to be lost, if you wanted not to be found. And so therefore, how easy would it be for somebody, especially a child, wandering off trail out of curiosity to stumble, fall, get hurt? Nobody can find them, nobody can hear them. How far is my voice carrying? I'm not even talking that loud, but how far would it really carry? Especially when masked by this creek right here and the waterfall. If I were to scream for help, who would really hear me? Who knows I'm here? There's no cell phone service up here. I've got no signal. I'm a mile from my car. If I were to hike further, I don't know where this trail goes. I could probably look on an app, if it allows me to do it offline and maybe get some reference points, sure. But there's so much that, yeah, we have topography of, yeah, we have satellite imagery of, but there is so much that we have not touched, that mankind has not treaded, especially modern man. As for Bigfoot, Agagwe, etc., same concept. Look at the cave systems, look at the crevasses, look at the vast denseness of forest. It's very plausible, in my opinion, if that creature exists, that it's there. And people say, well, what about all the pictures? They all suck. Well, I've mentioned this before. Let's do this as an example. All right. You see that green rock? I can see that green rock pretty clearly with my own eyes. Now, if I take my phone and I zoom in, now, how much pixelation are you seeing? You can tell it's a green rock. Okay, let's zoom out. See this tree right where my finger's at? Let's see how much detail that tree. We can still tell it's a tree, but can you get a lot of detail? And let's just look back in that foliage. Can we see a lot? Can we see a lot? Now, if I look in that foliage, and if I have a really keen eye, maybe I can make something out. But if I go to zoom in, these camera phones, folks, there's a lot of people, everybody has camera phones now. We should be able to see something. No. Because if I'm looking in the distance, and I'm seeing something off in the distance, this camera phone is not meant for telescopic views. I'm sorry. I don't care how good your camera is. I don't care if you have 4K, 1080p, HD. It doesn't matter. We don't have telescopic lens on these cameras, on these phones. Now, I'm hearing something in the distance. Clearly sounds like a plane. It's making sure it's not thunder. They are calling for thunderstorms today. But they're also calling for rain. It hasn't rained yet. It's rained this week and everything's wet, but it's not raining now. It's in the mid to high 50s. It's supposed to get into the lower 60s today with a chance of rain showers throughout the day and a possible thunderstorm. So we'll see. Right now it feels great here. I mean, I'm sitting here, I took my jacket off, I'm in a t-shirt, jeans. It feels nice. It feels like, a typical autumn day, but warmer than it should be. I expect to have snow. So anyway, these phones, let me get back to my point, I got sidetracked. I can look into that forest right there that you're looking at, and I can see enough detail to make things out. But not on my phone. It's not meant for that. That's one thing that the skeptics say. Well, we have all these phones, everybody has a phone, we should see something. No, because if these things are maintaining their distance, from people, and they're smart enough to evade people, especially if you consider that maybe what people are seeing are not necessarily Bigfoot, but feral people, wild men, men and women, possibly with long, unkept hair, wild hair, and men with long beards, matted hair, and they're wearing pelts to keep themselves warm, especially in the autumn and winter months, then could you, at a distance, mistake that for a Bigfoot? And we know people have done this. We know people have gone into the woods. They probably do this throughout human history, and they live in the wild, among the wild. They live like wild men. They live like wild animals. Thus the reason they become feral. I think back to that time I was hiking that trail at Stony Creek at Blue Hole Falls. And, I go off trail and I just follow the creek back into it basically back up into the mountain, uphill a little bit. And I start getting a very uneasy feeling I felt like I was being watched. And I just had this feeling of danger. And I just quietly turned around and walked back down the trail. Or, I wasn't on the trail, but followed the creek back down to the trail and, got back in my vehicle and left. Now, I've been there since and I've not had that feeling yet. But that one time, that's where you trust your gut. Now, right now, I always have a habit of looking around and kind of get to know what's around me, especially when I'm in the woods. I feel completely relaxed and completely comfortable here. I feel no trepidation. I feel no anxiety, no fear, no nothing. Completely relaxed. Beautiful day. So, with that, I just wanted to give that talk. Let me know if you guys have had any experiences. But like I said, I think likely what people are seeing, maybe not all the time, but I would say some of the time, if people are actually seeing something that is not a bear, that is not something identifiable, I wonder if instead of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, if they're seeing feral people out in the woods. Because another thing I don't get about the skeptics is they say, oh, it's just somebody in a monkey suit. I want to know where you find these monkey suits. And then you have to ask the question, people bring up the Patterson video. And a lot of people say, well, that's been debunked because the guy admitted that he was in the monkey suit. And then other people say, well, no, later he admitted that there was inconsistencies. So you don't know what to think. I look at that video and I go, that's something. Somebody's seeing something. Now, if that is a guy in a monkey suit, then that's a damn good monkey suit for that time. How come Hollywood wasn't using that during their filming of various movies that had monkeys in them? In the mid to late 60s when that film was taken. Okay? I have my own questions as, okay, how come we only get a short snippet of that film? How come there wasn't more of that film? I don't know how long you could film that for. Did he only have a little bit of film in his camera? I don't know. So, my kickback to skeptics are this. Okay, let's say that somebody in a monkey suit. Well, somebody came up with the idea of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, a dogleg, abominable snowman, yeti, wood booger, skunk ape. All these words that describe essentially a bipedal, ape-like, hairy creature. Where did those stories come from? Now, does it go back to the idea of a feral human being living in the woods, living off nature and animal carcasses as their clothing? Could that be the reason? Maybe. Maybe. You would have to see how far back the story or any sighting of Bigfoot goes. The earliest I've seen it ever in North America goes back to the 1700s. I'll try to find this and make another video showing it. If I can remember to find it, I'll try to maybe put it in the description box. But I once read an article or seen an article from 1799. Okay? So right at the end of the 1700s into the 1800s of somebody claiming they saw an ape-like creature, and it was in, I don't know if it was in this part of North America, but it was here in North America. And then you have to think of other cultures that have said the same thing. Look at the Native American cultures that, again, they would know what a bear looks like. And yet at the same time, they talk of giant human-like beings with fur on them. And here's the thing. I don't think that they would conflate that with somebody who's wearing an animal skin. I think they would know the difference. Unless some of these native tribes, or even white man, branched off into the wilderness, killed themselves a bear or a buffalo, and put the whole hide on them, including maybe a head, okay, to cover their head, and maybe from a distance it looks like a non-human entity. You know, man-like but not man. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's all mistaken identity. And one thing I will harp on the Bigfoot enthusiasts on is, you know, all the supernatural stuff regarding Bigfoot. I think that's retarded. I think that is a distraction from real discussion of something like this existing. And it distracts from real investigative work of missing people, especially in this part of the country. Okay? Where it's not a clear case of a serial killer or malice intent on the trail. Again, I then ask, could we have feral people living in the wild who would harass would-be hikers and campers and even abduct them for whatever reason? Some say that this could be cannibalistic. Some say this could be for breeding purposes or companionship. Who knows? Stay safe out there when you're out in the woods. Keep your head on a swivel. Enjoy nature. This is my church, by the way. I'm not particularly religious, but this is my church. This is where I contemplate life. And sometimes I get answers. So thanks all for watching. Look for more videos. Peace out.